Hi, everyone. Welcome to season 6, episode 4 of Dualistic Unity. I am a little sapling finding my way, branching my branches out with no particular direction about where they should be going, trusting that whatever is unfolding is exactly what should be unfolding, and that I'm going to be the tree that I am. And when you look out in nature, are there ever good trees or bad trees? Or does everything just have its place? I just have my place.
Absolutely. And we just had, such an epic conversation on fear and control and expectations and relationships and how there is no one way. And the best thing that we can do is pay attention. And paying attention doesn't require us to be tense. So you can pay attention and be relaxed, and that will always serve the moment. Paying attention and being there and not needing it to be anything else. And so you lose that desire to control, because you realize that it's all just here. And I can do so much with it if I can just pay attention and take it in, versus telling myself that I can only take it in if I control it, because I never can. And so, Dualistic Unity with Jackie and Amanda is on another ride, and we're so excited that you all could be here with us.
And bear with me for a second, Amanda. Before we get into it, I invite everybody to take a deep breath in and exhale. Just drop your shoulders. You're chilling where you are. And let's get into the episode.
Okay, we are here for another conversation. Jackie, it feels like it's been an eternity since our last episode, even though it was just last week.
No, it literally has. And Halloween weekend, that was fun. This is when we're recording it. And I was telling Amanda, I've had a little bit of a rough morning. So we're here. We have coffee and water nearby and Advil. And maybe smoked a little bit beforehand just to take the edge off a little bit. And we're just happy to be here and chatting. We'll see where this goes.
Absolutely. Happy Halloween. It is November 1st today, and I stood in last night, but Jackie, you went out. So I love that. It sounds like you had a wonderful time. Tell us a little bit more. And did you wear a costume? I'm curious. And if so, what was that costume?
I dressed up as Hermione Granger from Harry Potter. So it was just simple. I had the tie, a little button down, a little skirt, a little wand, and I curled my hair, and it was fun. It was really fun. It was nothing too crazy. I just went to like a friend's party. So my girlfriends picked me up and we went there, and then later we ended up going to a club. And it was fun. I just danced. Um, and I liked that I was just hanging with the girls all night. That's the best way for me to spend the night. Um, Dudes are all right, but when you're dressed like a character, it's like sometimes I feel like I need to keep my distance just a little bit. Run along, run along. This is not the droid you're looking for. But it was fun. I'm noticing more and more in social situations that I just go with the flow. And I don't really get nervous or think about them beforehand. I'm just like, yeah, okay, well, I guess I'm doing this. And I don't have to think about like how the whole night's gonna go. And so I've just started just saying yes. Like when people are like, oh, you wanna go to this place next? And I'm like, sure, I don't know anybody there, but I never knew anybody when I was born, and everybody I met now I had to meet for the first time. So I'm just a lot more open to those situations, and it's so fun also because I don't expect everyone there to like me or get laugh at my jokes or like for us to become best friends. It's just to go out there and observe the world in different scenarios and just try and be myself as fully as I can. And yeah, It was an awesome time, but I'm just glad that weekend's over and now I can go. I've just been sleeping like these last couple days. I've just been sleeping in until like fucking 11. And my brain also has a lot to say about that, but I've just been thinking a lot about balance. And like I think it's okay to go hard, but then you also have to expect yourself to recover hard, because it literally is just, you need that opposite end of the spectrum in order to balance your whole being, and so you don't get sick and you can continue to just keep this thing rolling. But I think there's such a pressure to like have your morning routine, and I still feel that way, like when I am sleeping in late and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't wake up and meditate this morning. You think there's just like a right way to be a person, and like for me, I'm so hard on myself that even just like one day I feel guilty about, but also I'm being like, fuck that noise. I can recognize that it's bullshit, but at the same time I'm still thinking these things and it's very much still there. So it's not interesting. I feel like there's like always always a battle going on inside my mind, or maybe not a battle, just like a heated discussion where both sides have a strong belief. And what I've realized is I'm not either of those voices. I'm just the screen they're being projected on. I am the one who's perceiving whatever it is they're saying, and I don't have to attach myself to any of my judgments about myself. Um, so it's just an interesting process watching it unfold.
Yeah, it really is so interesting because it feels like a heated discussion sometimes, and other times it feels like a dance. Like, or other times it feels like playfully passing a ball back and forth, and sometimes it's like lethal dodgeball. It's just like, someone's going down and it's not me. And I'm looking in the mirror as I say that. You're going down, going way down. And and it's me saying this to me. I'm like, my goodness, why does everything have to be so life or death? And it's just this need for control. And I've been really exploring, or not, look at, that's so funny that I'm saying like I'm really exploring, like for the first time we've explored this. Like, no, it's just I'm exploring it again. The experience of control, and admitting to myself that every single time that I want to control a situation or another person or control the end result that I'm going to experience, it's always that motivation to have that control is always driven by fear. And what's so funny is that, or at least it feels funny now, that I only want to control it because I'm scared, but I could never control it. Like like no matter how many walls I build, 1,000 more walls couldn't predict or prevent what I'm scared about, which is uncertainty. I'm scared of something unknown or someone unknown happening, and I don't know what I would do in that situation. And so instead of having faith in myself in that situation, or in them, or in just the environment, I instead am thinking, oh, I'm just going to put up another wall. Like if another wall is going to prevent a different uncertainty from arising. So let's say even if that wall is successful at keeping away what I'm scared of, let's say it's job security or love security, which what I'll call like your relationship security. Like you can't guarantee that a job will be there tomorrow in the same way that you can't guarantee that a person will be there tomorrow. And so there's no such thing as job security and no such thing as love security. Like you're never going to be able to guarantee that someone will be there tomorrow that they will want to be, or that you will. And so but you can try to put up these walls, and I'm going to just get to work early on time, and I'm going to stay late every day, and I'm going to do every project, and I'm going to think of new projects, and even that won't prevent your company from being sold to another company and everybody at the company that you're at now getting laid off. So no matter how many walls you put up at work, there, there's no way that you could guarantee that your position, your industry, your business will be there, or that you will want to be there. And in the same way, for a relationship, you get married and you make this declaration to your friends and your families, and you say that, till death do us part, or until divorce. Until divorce do us part, like, why couldn't we say that? And when I was younger, it always seemed so much more romantic to have somebody make a promise to you. And now I'm at a place where I don't need you to promise anything. I don't need you to promise that you'll be there tomorrow, because I will be there tomorrow. I know that for sure. I will be there, and we will figure it out. And if we still want to hang out, cool. And if we don't, good times. Like, we had great times. Like, it wasn't all just like, you're damned, or I curse my exes. It's like, no, it's like we had good times and we didn't want to spend any more time. That's all it came down to. We had good times, we had challenging times, and then we didn't want to spend any more time on each other. And it's literally that simple. But I still imagine that they're still living their life for them, because that's what I'm making, that's why I'm making an effort to do. And so it's been interesting to realize that the times that I wanted to control a situation or a person, I was just scared, and I only wanted to make myself feel better, because the only thing that my walls will do is make me feel better, because they won't protect me from uncertainty. They won't, and I won't be able to predict it or prevent it. And so the only thing that my walls ever do is make me feel better. That's it. And that was like what felt like a bitter pill to swallow recently.
And the most fucked up part about is they don't actually keep you safe. Like, they don't actually make you feel safe, because deep down you're doubting, what if they knock the wall down? What if they jump over the wall? I don't know. There's, like you were saying, there's a million different things that we feel like we need to protect ourselves from at all times, because we just assume that certain things actually do mean something about us, that our value can be determined by our external circumstances, by whether a person loves us, by whether we're making a certain amount of money, whether we're at the place in our lives that everybody else expects us to be. We're living for the validation of everybody else, and like being so dependent on other people to fill that hole within yourself, or to like give yourself love, because your relationship with yourself is so toxic and horrible. Like, literally, for so long I was the biggest bully to myself, and I made my life hell by what I was choosing to believe and reinforced myself. And I was looking for everything outside of me, scrambling to like force things to fit into my life and force things to make me feel a certain way. And then when I didn't feel a certain way in those situations, I would think there was something wrong with me. And like, until you realize, oh, I need to probably mute Discord, but until you realize that, like, you don't know, like, there is no certainty. Like you were saying, Amanda, like, there's nothing that we can do to protect ourselves from that reality. And that's scary. Yeah, that's totally fucking scary. But only scary from the perspective where you're viewing yourself as Jackie, or as Amanda, as the limited idea of what you think you are. Because once that's gone and you think you're all that's that, then you're like, I will cease to be, and I will fade into oblivion, and nobody will care about my struggles. Nobody will care about my legends. But like, just also recognizing that there is no separation, and life just continues to take different forms and shapes, and evolution continues on. we don't end at our skin. Like this whole thing is one thing. And our will is the same sense of will that everyone else has. And also the way the I think that's the organizing principles of the universe are God. Like that's intelligence unfolding. And that's the same thing we are. We're intelligently designed, but not in terms of human intelligence. I'm forgetting completely where I started going with this. I think we were talking about relationships in particular. But with relationships, I kind of agree. Like I'm at this point in my life where I don't feel like there's a need to put a label on it. Maybe. I still don't know because in my last relationship that was like 7 months ago, we were like officially boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever, exclusive, like, and honestly, that made me feel really safe in my relationships. But what I learned from that relationship as well is that even if everything is right in terms of the relationship, like the communication is there, it's just easy. There are other things in life that pull you different directions. And that's something you have to accept as well, that you might just change and be pulled a different way. And you're going to keep floating whether you're with that person or not. Like you're not going to drown in the ocean of uncertainty. You're going to keep floating. You're going to keep swimming and getting it through. And you don't need one person isn't the solution to your whole life. Oh my gosh, that would be honestly a nightmare. To like go to one person and expecting them to meet all your needs. I don't know about you, but I get sick of people after a certain amount of time. Like nobody is perfect enough. You know, they are, and they aren't. Like we are perfectly imperfect. But I don't think we should feel pressure to like find the person that is just perfect for us in every single way, because nobody's going to be able to fill that hole, and you should not expect them to either. Like that, this is not a fucking fairy tale. This is not a Disney movie. They always end after happily ever after, but in real life, I feel like relationships come and go with like seasons, and there are cycles that we move through, I think, throughout our life. And relationships are one of them, friendships are another. And you know, different interests or careers that we enter, like all of it is meant to come into our lives. And it's not even that it's meant to, they just do. They come into your life and they teach you something, and you don't need to resist those experiences, even in terms of relationships, because I think that's something I do, is really resist relationships because I know they're going to end and I know that I don't need them. But at the same time, there's so much value that I've gained from my relationships just in terms of what they've taught me about myself. So that was a really long rant all over the place. I'll pass it over to Amanda, but I'm feeling the flow today.
Absolutely, keep it coming. I love a good rant, and it made sense to me, like how much it does make us feel comfortable. And so the relationship label is another wall from that uncertainty, like, oh, I've got my person, I have been selected, I have met someone's criteria, I am good enough, people, it has been said. And that makes you feel better. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with marriage. There's nothing wrong with genuinely wanting to make that promise to someone. And there's certainly nothing wrong with fulfilling it. If that is your choice and that is what you want to do, and it's organically working for both people or however many people are involved, fantastic. It's just that I'm noticing that I am needing less and less promises from people, and less promises from work, or less promises from myself too. I'm just not needing to promise to be anything to anyone, including myself. And that has been a different experience, because I a part of me still wants those promises because I'm so used to that idea. And it's so funny when I think about Disney, and I love that you brought them up, and the happily ever afters, because what I failed to realize was that the story kept going after happily ever after. Like Cinderella and the prince, they get married happily ever after, right? The movie ends, but the relationship has just started for them, technically, in so many ways. And they haven't, you know, decided what their day-to-day experience is going to be like, because they just met. They're two strangers who just met and just happened to click, and they're meant to be, right? But she doesn't know where he hides his crusty socks. I don't care if there's an attendant that finds those crusty socks and then cleans them. He still makes them. He still makes crusty socks. He still takes them off near his bed. He's a person like anyone else, Mr. Prince, and so that's why I love the idea, or at least the option of living with a partner, or living with somebody that you're spending time with, to get to know them. Or at least I used to, but now I kind of love the idea of just being in my own apartment for the rest of my life, like my own little bubble, my own little space, and because that's a way, for me, that's a way healthier, or I guess maybe not healthier, but it feels like a very easy way to make sure that I remember that I am my bubble, right? And so my apartment feels like my bubble. And when you share space, you share that bubble, of course you do. But when you don't, this is the first time, actually, so just for the record, this is the first time I've lived by myself, like not with a boyfriend, not with a friend, not with a family member. Like, I'm actually living on my own, and I love it. I love it. And so are you, Jackie. Like, I love that we are both experiencing this, because, oh my God, I highly recommend it, everyone. There is nothing like living on your own, in your own apartment, in your own designated bubble. Like, there is nothing like it. And it's certainly an experience that I recommend, because it feels so freeing and a little isolating. And so the way that the example, or the analogy that I compare it to, is that sometimes it feels like I'm in my own personal one-person oasis. And sometimes it feels like I'm on a deserted island, and I destroyed my own boat to leave the island. And I'm like, oh no, what were you thinking? What have I done? And then I think, oh, maybe, I am 31, I'm turning 32. Like, I'm supposed to be married by now. I'm supposed to be in a house that I own. I'm supposed to have kids by now. I'm not supposed to be living on my own and loving it, sometimes not loving it. But it is very important, or at least for me, the lesson has been very important, because it makes it so undeniable that my experience is dependent upon me. And living on my own has made that abundantly clear. And as much as sometimes I do wish for company is a walk out my front door. You want company, Amanda? Walk down the street, talk to a neighbor, go to a local library, go to a local art shop, you want connection, it's right out the door. Because even when I've lived with somebody, I have felt like I have felt very alone and lonely, even when I lived with someone. So living with someone is not the answer to the question of where is my connection. The connection is your connection to this moment. How connected are you to this moment, to your experience, to being your bubble? Because when you live on your own, there's no way that you can deny that you are that bubble. And although someone, it can be a fabulous, wonderful distraction, there's nothing more freeing than realizing it is all on you. And as much as sharing time with someone, especially someone that appreciates you, is so wonderfully delicious. And I get that. And I totally get that. Spending time with somebody that really appreciates you is unlike anything else. But I don't need that to be around 24/7. Right. I just don't. And because I'm ultimately alone in my thoughts, or in my experience of Amanda. And so as much as having a boyfriend, or having a partner, or having a roommate feels great, they will never be able to help me, or they won't be able to ever get me to avoid actually feeling like it's just me. Like, that feeling never goes away. Once the distraction is gone, it's like, oh yeah, it's all on me again. No, it was always on me. It's just that your distraction made you, or you forgot because of the distraction, but it never took away the reality that it is always on you, whether you are together with somebody, officially or not living with somebody or not, like all of those things are secondary to you always being your experience. And so it's been interesting because it's not that I want to be away from relationships, because you're always in them. Like even if you're official or not, like you're in a relationship with someone, whether it's casual or they're your boyfriend. Like you're talking to them, you're spending time with them, you're spending attention on them, you are invested on some level. That sounds like a relationship to me. And it matters just as much whether you say it matters or it doesn't, because you are that relationship. And if you don't, and if it doesn't matter to you, then why are you in it?
And there's no real line between different levels of relationships. So I like what you said, Amanda, like you're just in relation with the world, with everything. You're in relation with yourself, even because we, this is all us. It is all us. And there's no, like, any boundary that we draw between friendship, like coworker, acquaintance, friend, situationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, marriage, they're all conceptual. And the thing about concepts is they're kind of up in the air. There aren't like listed out rules of what these concepts mean for everybody. And we're all walking around with different expectations and perceiving each other so incredibly differently. Like, it's been hitting me also. I don't know how I'm perceived at all, at all, at all. And like, I don't know. It's hard for me, honestly, to tell other people's intentions with me because I don't know how they're perceiving me. And I don't try to assume, I just like go by their actions, but that can also be a little too trusting sometimes. Anyway, what were we talking about again? So, we were talking about, oh, the lines between different kinds of relationships. Yeah. So it's like we're all expecting each other to follow the same rules, but we all inherently have different rules. And if you're expecting somebody else to be able to come into your life and just guess what all your rules are and treat you exactly that way, but you want them to treat you that way because they want to treat you that way, not because you told them to. And there's just so many expectations that go with relationships. And recently, I've kind of had no patience for other people reflecting those back on me. And it's empowering to know that, like, yeah, you are your own consciousness. You are alone in whatever this experience is. And that doesn't really sound empowering. It kind of just sounds lonely and isolating, but I think the more you spend time with yourself, it's the most full experience you could ever possibly have. It's and there are times where it's really clear for me and I'm just like, love myself. Like, I love experiencing, I love existing, and I'm just really comfortable in my consciousness, in my experience. And there are other times where it just feels like I'm insane or like I'm doing everything wrong in my life and I have an issue with every single thing I do and just nitpicking myself. And I've noticed too that the more that you're able to love yourself fully, the more you're actually able to love other people because you're not expecting them to be this list of requirements for them to be in your life. You're not expecting them to not be human and have like gross habits just like we all do. And morning breath and like maybe they chew loudly or something or they have really crazy farts. Every single person is just as flawed as the other, and I've noticed in my relationships that that totally is reflected back at me because I'll like start nitpicking the other person and I realize that that's because I'm nitpicking myself. And that also, I also don't want to put that on other people. as well. And so I feel like I am avoiding relationships until I feel like I'm never going to be healed enough to not have those thoughts, but like I feel like at this point in my life I do just want to be alone, and I do just want to get comfortable there, because as much as I've grown in that capacity over the last year, I still notice myself like craving validation and wanting people's approval, and maybe not being fooling myself all the time. It's still habitual to like conform to whatever people want me to be sometimes. And I think I'm just at a point in my life where I'm trying to consciously focus on that. And I wish I was living alone. I do have roommates. Um, but yeah, living on your own, or just even having your own room, just having more time to yourself, I would say, is important, because you can observe yourself in different situations. And like Amanda was saying, she'll like go out, like you'll go out if you are craving interaction. I think my issue sometimes is that when I am alone, I'm afraid to go out on my own. Like I won't go to a bar by myself. I'll go to a restaurant by myself, but there are like very specific things that I won't go to by myself, just because I'm afraid. I'm afraid, I guess, of uncertainty, but that's always going to be there. What's your thought on like, do you think there are certain situations or certain levels of uncertainty we should completely avoid, or do you think, like, I don't know, like I think there are like, as much as I want to say it's nothing is objective, nothing is written in stone, and you should be open to experiencing anything. There's also a part of me that's like, no, maybe you shouldn't. What do you think, Amanda? That's something I battle with myself about. It's like, am I being safe, but also am I being free?
Don't get in the black band. Don't get... yeah, there are absolutely scenarios where I'm like, no, thank you. No, I am not doing that at all. No, no, no. Oh my goodness. Like let's say I am traveling out of the country by myself and I am at a bar and I get invited to an after party at a hotel. No, thank you. Like unless this is like a friend of a friend or a trusted event, or it's a public space, or like I am not going to an after party with people that I don't know as I got invited in a bar in a foreign country. No. As much as there are people who would say yes to that, like I personally would say no, just because, especially if it's in a country where I don't speak the language. That is absolutely. But if I can speak the language and I'm feeling a little adventurous, we might say yes to a couple of invitations that might be risky. But usually I have my own transportation. I can speak the language. I've got emergency money on me. I've got I've got sneakers on. I am not drinking when I'm out on my adventures by myself. I'm doing all my solo adventures sober so that I can be, alert and I can be paying attention to what's happening. And so that's how I would normally approach. But if I'm like in my home country, home state, and and I feel like going out to a bar, I will, but I will just drink water, and I'll get to know the bartenders. So if I do pick a bar that I go to, it I usually know the bouncers, I know the bartenders, or at least I know of some of the staff, and I've been there with friends before. And so that's usually how I will scope a place out, is I go scope it out with friends, but then I might go back there if I know that a certain bartender that I like is working on a particular night. And then, I always, stay sober, and then always make sure that I am able to drive myself there and back. So that's usually how I would handle. But but that doesn't guarantee anything, right? What I just said doesn't prevent anything from happening, even with those precautions, even with those walls. There is but you know what it does? It makes me feel better. Like that's what my walls do. My walls make me feel better, and sometimes they are successful and they do reduce the likelihood of something happening, but they can never guarantee that nothing bad won't happen. That there's never that guarantee, because that can always happen. And so, it's like, when people think of the dualistic unity retreats, they think of those as places where bad things could never happen. And it's not that a bad thing will happen or won't happen. It's just that there is no moment and there is no place that you could guarantee anything. Like, you just can't, you can never guarantee what will or won't happen. So it's not to make people feel panicked, and it's to say that paying attention will always serve you. I don't care if you are at home or in a foreign country by yourself with friends at a D retreat, on some random adventure, taking a last minute flight to the Bahamas or wherever you would like to go. Paying attention will always serve you, and you don't have to be tense to pay attention. So that is like the best thing that I would tell anyone to do, regardless if they're by themselves or not, because paying attention is how you notice the red flags or the green flags. It's not just about noticing red flags. It's paying attention. You get to appreciate, wow, this is so incredible. I can't believe we're here. Or paying attention will be like, oh, snap, that drunk person is getting a little reckless. You guys want to leave this bar? I'm thinking, like, I don't want to see where that party's going. And you're just, and all you're doing in both situations is just paying attention to what is happening, whether you want to call that good or bad. Just pay attention. That's the best thing I can say.
Because there is no safety. That's the safest thing you can do in a world of pure uncertainty, is pay attention. And I think just with experience, you start to notice things that before you didn't. Let me close Discord real quick. I noticed that there was a Discord sounds in the first episode that I recorded, season 5 episode something. It's anyway, so I'm trying to be aware of that. So yeah, there really is no certainty. There is no safety, and investing in those false senses of security really just take your energy out of the present moment, because it's like immediately as you start thinking like, or you're maintaining concepts about who certain people are or how certain situations play out, like you're back here, like you're sitting back a little bit and you're just trusting that your concept is of what's going to happen is what's going to happen. And so you're not paying attention as much. You're not as able to respond, and things catch you off guard. It's like in my psychology classes, I learned about perceptual blindness. And it's like when you're expecting a certain thing to happen, your brain just straight up will not perceive certain things that don't align with your concept of the world. Or even with things that you don't know about yet, you don't notice them, but then once you learn about them, you notice them all around. Like, our brains don't perceive what we don't already understand, or don't, like, we can miss things. It's very easy for us to miss things when we're relying on concepts. And it's not really possible to just throw all your concepts out the door. I feel like they are kind of habitual and they operate subconsciously under the surface. But I think just being able to remind yourself when you are caught up in thought about a situation or caught up in fear, because fear doesn't go anywhere. Fear is just you exhausting yourself internally. And that also takes away from your presence in the moment, your ability to respond and to operate with a level of discernment rather than just out of habitual fear. And I think that's how you take advantage of situations that may arise that are good, that normally you would have pushed away out of fear, because you can know, like, oh no, this, and I feel like you get better at sussing people out the more that you pay attention, the more context you gain. But yeah, it's just also knowing at every level in that interaction, you have the choice. You have the choice to leave. You have the choice to be like, okay, no, this is like, Like, it's not like if you agree to go to the party and you get there and it's thus you have to stay. Like, you don't have to just keep saying yes once you say yes. You can you can walk down a path and like notice the trap and be like, I'm gonna turn around. You always have that opportunity in literally every moment. I think we have a narrative that we have to, like, there are certain crossroads in our lives, or like if we didn't change something when we thought we were supposed to change it, we can't change it now. Like, that's the whole like New Year's resolution thing. Like, people like put off change until the new year so that they feel like they have a reason, but it's also just avoidance of taking responsibility in the moment. And yeah, I think we run from that responsibility, but in reality it's our greatest strength. That's where we build that faith in ourselves, you know, and we make a decision and we trust ourselves and we keep doing what we're doing and we keep moving forward in life. And that takes an ability to see the moment for what it is, see yourself for what you are without judgment, and just steering the ship a different direction.
I like how you said that, making a decision and trusting yourself to stick with that decision until you don't want to, in the same way, when you talked about being single and not being in quote unquote official relationships with a partner. It's you're going to stay in the decision to be single until you decide to make the decision to enter into any kind of relationship with any kind of label. It's you stay in that until you decide you don't want to be there anymore, and trusting yourself when you're making these decisions to come and go, to grow. And growing doesn't happen in any particular way. You never look at a tree and think, oh, that tree is not a good tree because one of its branches grew at an awkward looking angle. Oh, that tree's not a good tree because it's not as, it doesn't have, you know green, or it doesn't have as green as leaves as the tree next to it. It's like, no, you're just you're growing in whatever direction and however that looks. And that is unpredictable, and that is so magical that you can just keep growing and evolving. And that's going to ultimately end in, or it's going to ultimately end some relationships. And I almost want to like think of, instead of ending, it might just take a relationship out of focus. Because does the relationship really end? Because at any point you can quote unquote restart it. You can reignite, or it can revitalize. You don't talk to someone for 5 years, and then you talk to them every day for a year, and then you don't talk to them for another 5. Does that mean that for those two chunks of 5 years that the relationship didn't exist? No, it was there. It's just that it was out of focus. And so that out of sight, out of mind, but it's not out of sight obliterated. It's not like it's out of sight and that's it. That relationship has been destroyed into nothing. There's nothing left of that relationship. It could never come back to life. It's just like we're so dramatic. And although I love the drama, I really do. It's so black and white, and life is just a million and infinite shades of gray. And so are our relationships. And I like how you said that earlier in our chat today, was just that, the depths of the relationship don't validate the relationship. Like, just because a relationship is casual doesn't mean that it's not as worthwhile or as valuable as a relationship with somebody that you have chatted with and shared some of your deepest secrets with, and you've known for 50 years. It's, the relationship with the 50-year length of time is just as important as the one off moments that you share with a stranger in the street, and maybe they give you an umbrella on a rainy day and they say, oh, my house is around the corner, you know, in case you have to walk farther, take mine, and you never forget them, and then you never see them again because you didn't know that they were moving out of that house a block away the very next day, and so they helped you knowing that they'd never get their umbrella back. And isn't that moment just as magical as the one that when the relationship and the magic of 50 years? Like, the length and the depth of the relationship doesn't validate it. They're all valuable. They're all equally important and deserve your attention when you're in it. You know how, so whether it's in focus or out of focus, all of our relationships matter because they all reflect our relationship with ourselves. And that's a you know, of how much I'm appreciating. I don't need anyone to promise me anything because I don't need anyone to give me what I'm not already giving myself. Like, I'm comfortable in my skin, and when I don't feel comfortable, I look at that. I don't look for someone to never make me feel that. You know, I don't look for someone to never make me feel like I'm not, like I'll always be comfortable. Like, no one could promise me that. And so whether I'm with someone or not, like, I'm going to feel moments of loneliness. I'm going to feel uncertain. I'm going to feel insecure. I'm going to feel anxious. I'm going to want to control things. I'm going to be scared. And so a relationship with someone else, quote unquote, will never eliminate those experiences from happening again. And so that's why I don't need anyone to promise me tomorrow, because what are we doing right now? How are we spending right now together? That's way more important to me than what you could promise me tomorrow. Even if you could guarantee me tomorrow, how are we spending today? That's my priority.
And thinking about tomorrow is literally sapping the energy out of the moment that you're having right there. Like, you're both off somewhere else and not really seeing the person in front of you. And I think that's where a lot of relationships grow cold, is that you meet somebody and it's exciting because it's so uncertain and you're getting to know each other, but then you settle an idea of who that person is and who you are, and then you start interacting with that concept and not the person in front of you, and then you wonder, why are we so disconnected? Why are we completely on opposite pages? Like, I don't feel seen. It's because we're trying to feel certain about who the other person is and who we are always. And like I said, like, we're expecting people to live up to expectations that we made up and we did not agree upon. And everybody has different expectations and different needs in terms of like their own wound. They're like, I don't know, like, I think love is so, the way that we expect to be loved varies from person to person. But I think just knowing that nobody ever can actually see you. I think we just want to be seen. I think we just want to be seen so bad. And recognizing that nobody can ever see you because nobody can experience your consciousness. You stop expecting people to do that. And then it's like, I don't need you to make me feel better. I don't need you to validate me, because I'm also trying not to validate myself. Or like, I just know that any sort of validation isn't talking about me. It's talking about something that just is in me. And although that can make me feel good sometimes, it's like, I'm not trying not to attach to it. And I do think that maybe the most genuine and real forms of love can come out of that space. Love without, like, actual unconditional love. And that might not be with one person. That might not look like a committed relationship where you're together, living together, having children, having, going to the courthouse, like signing documents. It might not look like that. But that's probably way more fulfilling than having a picture perfect family and feeling alone. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, but I think it's hard. There's not a lot of people out there who are letting go of need and attachment.
Don't say that. There are plenty where, just because that's a story, right? That there's not a lot of people out there. that there's not a lot of people out there who are, and we have over 20,000 people, 20,000 listeners each month in the Dualistic Unity community, and that's only growing. So it's like, oh, there's no one, Jackie. There's 20,000 people and growing, and that's only 20,000 that we know about. We've got over 1 million, listens of the podcast, and like there are people who are focusing on this. It's just that they're not in focus. They're not close enough. And because you don't see them doesn't mean that they don't exist, that they're not there, because I would have said the same thing about just friends, let alone partners that wanted to have these conversations. And I was I couldn't have been happier to be wrong when I found the Dualistic Unity community of just people having these conversations, bursting their own bubbles, calling themselves out, making themselves feel uncomfortable, or at least not trying to not feel uncomfortable. And so like I want to make sure that we don't just tell another story about how hard it is to find somebody, or how hard it is to make these connections or have these conversations. It's not that it's hard, it's just that it's not frequent. It doesn't happen often. You don't see it everywhere. It's not mainstream, but it's there, and we are examples of that. So the person who is not us, who is saying this, might find this episode and see, holy shit, I thought I was the only one. And look at these two girls having this conversation, calling me out in North Dakota or wherever, just thinking that they're all alone, or that there's no one who wants to have these chats. And there are, we just maybe haven't found them yet. That conversation in particular hasn't started yet, but the potential is there, and we're only making it easier for these connections to happen, for these conversations to happen, because we are the bridge. We are the bridge to this being more frequent and more commonplace. And that's enough. I don't need to meet all these amazing, wonderful people right now, but I know they're coming.
I know, like ideally, just there would be 10 eligible bachelors who who live in my neighborhood, who are just being themselves and letting go of their shit. But why do I expect that? It just is what it is. And yeah, you're so right. There are people even outside of this community, because this conversation is bubbling up all over the place. And even in terms of like the yoga world, because that's something I'm tapped into, I do think there are plenty of people who are seeing this and who are becoming more comfortable with facing their shit and letting it move through them and express itself however it needs to. And just, I think there are people out there, but I don't need them. I don't. If I were to be alone forever, that'd be fine. But what do I even mean by alone at the same time? Because yeah, I'm alone in my consciousness, but also surrounded by so much. Like if I maybe if I were to like go to a different planet or something, there wouldn't be relations, but that's not going to happen. And even then I'd be thinking about my family and we'd be connected. Yeah. What was that fucking Nobel Peace Prize about, like the non-local universe? Because I always think about that. I don't know the specifics of that, but it's like we feel physically, geographically separated. If we were to go to Mars, there's no escaping relations. And that's peaceful. I just don't need to have specific ones. I don't feel the need to control what kind of relations I'm experiencing at any given moment.
I love that. I don't know too much of the specifics about that Nobel Peace Prize, because I think I read an article about it once, I'm pretty sure, and that was it. But yeah, just how we're not separate, how we don't stop at our skin, that there is no separation, that they can't prove that there's a separation between your cells and or your atoms and the atoms of the items around you. And that I think a part of it was that everything is happening until you view it, and then once there's an observer, it becomes one. So I think it was like a particle was they were trying to have a particle move down like two pathways, and but when they looked, it was only in one pathway. And but when I think somehow they were able to confirm that it was technically going through both until someone observed it, and then once someone observed it, then it was only going down one path. Because I almost think, I almost wonder if it's like our limitation, like we expect it to not be, two things can't be at one place. And because we have that expectation, maybe that's why we only see one thing in one place at a time. But the potential is you always have, everything's always everywhere technically. But that is just like the roughest summary that I can remember, that I think I'm getting. But we're gonna have some science moments, and we're gonna research this together, and then we will have a conversation. We will dedicate some time in our next episode to discussing that, because that is super interesting, and I do want to dive back into that. I love that you brought it up. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Yeah, I think it was the double slit experiment, but yeah, no, it's crazy. The universe responds to just our perception. And I don't know how to conceptualize that. I really can't. But it makes sense. Like it's everywhere in our world. Even if you watch somebody do something versus them doing it alone, like if something knows it's being watched, it's gonna respond differently for some reason. But it's so strange, like where I just don't understand where the difference between the observer and the observed is. It's not a clear line. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Oh, and I love when I come to this point in questioning where I'm just like, oh, I can't comprehend. It's so mysterious and I just don't know. I just always come back to I don't know. And it's crazy how much that has deepened from just like I don't know the right way to live my life to like I don't know how I exist. I don't know how any of this is happening or why or anything like and nothing that I've been able to discover has been able to answer any of those questions. Nothing. And I tried. I've wanted to understand what was happening for as long as I can remember. And I tried so many different ways. At first it was I studied psychology because I thought if I knew how my brain worked, then I would know how everything worked. But I took like science of consciousness classes, and at the end of it, they were like, yeah, it's still a mystery. Like there's no answers there. And then spirituality tells you there's answers. But to me, it just seemed like the same old thing of like trying to fit yourself into a box in order to get the validation of being or considering yourself to be enlightened or consider yourself to be a spiritual person. And none of it was grounded. But that's where I'm at now, where it's just like, okay, well, the only thing that I have is my experience, and I don't have to know why. I can just cruise through, I'm just here to experience. I'm not here to figure it out. I'm not here to do anything specific. Because at once I am the smallest piece of the puzzle and everything happening forever. And I can just trust that it's happening the way it's supposed to because that's what's happening. It really just comes down to I don't know anything, but I know this room. I know this. And not even with words. You can't even describe it with words because any description is settling on concepts and assumptions. But like you're there, you're here, you're here, and that's the bedrock of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. The description is never the described, no matter how confident you are in that description. And it all boils down to control, or at least it feels like a lot of this boils down to control and fear. And just you want to be enlightened because you're fearful that if you're not enlightened, you'll suffer in hell for an eternity, or that you'll suffer an eternity on a life on earth. You think that by controlling the situation you won't be scared anymore. And i've never I've never been able to experience no fear behind my walls. I was scared behind my walls, but it all seems to come back to fear and control and not wanting to pay attention. Like legitimately, like the idea of paying attention used to feel like a burden, because I used to view it like something that I had to do, not something that I have the opportunity to do, because paying attention is almost like drinking in the moment. And when I'm paying attention, I can drink in more. But if I feel like I have to drink, then it's like, oh, but it's like I never have to do anything. But when I don't pay attention, I don't like that experience. And fear and control are tied to me paying attention, because I I think that if I can control the situation, I won't have to pay attention and I won't have to be scared. But that's bullshit. It's I The control only ever made me feel better because I pretended that the control was my solution to the fear. That by controlling the situation, I don't have to pay attention because I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. I know what you're going to do. I know what I'm going to do. And so that means that I don't have to pay attention anymore because I have controlled this moment. And by controlling this moment, I have nothing to fear. And yet somehow I was still scared. So the plan was for shit. And it really just was all boiling down to wanting to feel better. And so that's why it's like, being enlightened is not a destination. It's what's the way that Ray said it the other day, which was it's not enlightenment, it's a lightening. Like things are getting lighter. Like that's what I have felt most often lately, is that my life feels lighter, my relationships feel lighter, my day-to-day feels lighter. I don't feel like an enlightened being, but I certainly don't feel like I'm carrying as much weight. And all I ever had to do was put the weight down and stop, or either put the weight down or stop picking up more weight. And that's been awesome, because I'm like, son of a bitch, why did it have to be this simple? I wanted life to be difficult and complicated and for me to be helpless so that I could be the victim, because a part of me thought that I couldn't handle being my whole experience. But even then, even when I'm the victim, but my whole experience is being the victim. So I've never not been my whole experience, even when I pretended not to be. Even when I pretended to be helpless, all I was having and creating was this helpless experience. And so it's like, well, so I can't get out of this. I am the experience. Yes, you are the whole experience. So live it up, have fun, enjoy it, relax a little, have a lightening if you can. And when you notice that things are getting heavy, maybe ask yourself, what am I holding on to? What am I telling myself that I should do? Because you never have to do anything. We're learning, we're growing, we will stumble. I saw one of your TikToks earlier today, Jackie, and I loved it. We were talking about like walking and how you fell 100 times on your face, right? And you didn't give up after like the 10th try, like that's it, no more walking for me, like no. I love how you said that, because that's the perfect example of an experience that we all went through. If you are a walking adult, you fell on your face a million times as a baby. There's no way that you didn't. You had to, and that never stopped you. So why does metaphorically falling on your face hurt more?
Oh my gosh, I'm cracking up because I'm just thinking about like how soft we are. Like when we were babies, we were hard. We would just keep going. Like there was no reason for us to not just keep trying shit, even though we probably looked like idiots. And we didn't care. We didn't care. Like we were just intelligence learning how to pick itself up and move through the world. And along the way, we pick up all this weight, this fear, and it's just cracking me up. Yeah, the fear is just the victim mentality of being like, things shouldn't happen to me, and I couldn't handle this. Little old me could not handle I am a princess and I should be protected in a castle. Like, we want to be coddled and taken care of, and we want everything to go the right way in our lives. But just like the trees that grew in the biodome with no wind, or like the rich kid that never had to go the rich kid that never had to go through any struggle in life, never had to have a job, and then eventually is just unsatisfied and like never had the opportunity to develop. It's we don't want to become that. And it's so crazy that we fight against uncertainty and challenge and adversity in our lives so much. We think that's something that should not happen to us, and that our whole life should be easy and simple and happy, and we should feel good all the time. We wouldn't like the reality of that experience. Pain and adversity and all of the things you're afraid of are what would make you grow. Our brain just doesn't want uncertainty because it wants to feel safe evolutionarily. Like, we just want to keep surviving, and we want to feel like we're doing the best we can, but we've almost gone beyond that like animalistic way of thinking about the world and about survival. And now it's all just dealing in concepts. Like, our fight or flight reacts to the idea of ourself. And it's just a self-created prison. It is. And I think the bravest thing that you can do is recognize that you're always going to be afraid. Like, we just are all in denial collectively as a society. Like, we think if we have enough money, if we reach enlightenment, we're not going to feel pain. We're not going to feel insecure. We're not going to go through shit. And so when people get there and they do, they're like, what is the point of all this? And they go into a spiral because their whole life they've invested in something that they realize isn't real. It's not real security. Real security is, well, first of all, it doesn't exist, but the closest that you can get is, I don't know, let me pay attention. Let me use my context clues, but know that I'm never going to know for sure. I don't know the answers, and I never will. That's all there is to it. So that's the bravest thing you can do, because fear is just hiding. Fear is just being in denial that you can have any sort of control over a situation by thinking about it, and you just can't ever.
No, and it's we appreciate the win more the older this tree gets, you know. Just because I realized that, you know, the wind is a part of the environment, a part that I can't ever get rid of, and I wouldn't want to, because like in the example you gave with the biodome, you know, the trees had no reason to dig deeper roots because they had no resistance of the wind pushing on them. In the same and in that same way, you know, we dig deeper roots. Like, we toughen up when you get knocked down. When a bone breaks and it heals stronger than the original bone that broke. We are like that in spirit, in mind, as much as we are that in body, at least with our bones. And I love when you see a picture, or you notice something on a walk on a mountain, you know, like this little tiny tree sapling that's like growing in this most uncomfortable position between two rocks. And you're like, wow, life finds a way. We are that same persistent, you know, unstoppable life force. We are that, you know. And they try to credit it to humans having an indomitable spirit. It's life. Life is unstoppable. Life always finds a way, and we are another expression of life. We are not as limited as we'd like to think we are. And the only way that we really get to experience that beautiful persistence is when we get knocked down and we get back up, when that tree seed is tucked between those two rocks and the water's dripping on it and a leaf falls on it and the leaf decomposes and it absorbs the nutrients and that little sapling just bursts through. It is a why not? If I've got the nutrients, if there is an opportunity, like, why not? You are life. And no matter how much it feels like you are at the mercy of the environment around you, it's just that maybe if we paid attention a little bit more to the environment and less about our thoughts or less about our opinions, maybe we would notice other opportunities. And what comes to mind is that quote that's like, a door closes and a window opens, and but we spend so much time looking at the closed door that we don't notice the window open. We don't notice the other one door closes and 15 other doors open, but you're so crushed by the one door that closed that you don't notice the 15 other doors that had better, quote unquote better, we're just using for the example, opportunities for you. But if you're not paying attention in that hallway, then you're going to feel like you are cursed. I was born in front of this locked door. I will never know what it's like to be on the opposite side of a door. Why have thou forsaken me? And all you were doing was just throwing a tantrum. And instead you could have looked up at any time and been like, oh, is that an amusement park I see in that one door? I still don't know what's on the other side of this door, but we're going to go check out that open door because we just happened to notice it and we just decided to go through it. And then we could go there and we could have a horrible time, quote unquote, at that amusement park. You walk right back through that door and then you go into the door that has the mountain landscape and you feel and you enjoy that. It's like, even if you don't like something, just keep walking, just keep moving forward, because things only last as long as you settle on them.
And you actually can't stop walking. So it's either you're walking in place in front of the door that you think you should be going in, and you're stagnating in your life, and you are probably getting increasingly frustrated by the moment, being like, I'm walking here, I've been walking here for years and it still hasn't opened. Meanwhile, yeah, you're past, like, there are so many other opportunities that are in front of us in every moment, and the only thing that stops us from looking at them is our concepts of the world and concepts about what our life should look like versus what it is. And once you recognize that it is just what it is, and that your idea of how things should go is just one out of literally infinite trillions of other ways it could go, you start to like look around a little bit. You like zoom out. You zoom out, like your peripheral vision opens up, and you're like, because if you're just hyper fixated on that door, you have blinders on. You can't see what's going on down the hallway. Completely. You're like, please open, please open. Oh God, I'm having the best time. It's, yeah, like we're always going to be walking. So do you want to see do you want to take a walk around? Do you want to wander aimlessly, or do you want to follow a map? Be like, no, we have to go 300 feet this way, then like, that's so boring. Like, it's way more interesting and exciting, and you'll learn so much more by just taking whatever path feels fine in the moment, and you don't have to have an idea about where that's going, because that idea is the map. And yeah, I think honestly this might be a good place to stop this episode. We've been going for like an hour and 20 minutes. Fuck yeah, Amanda, this has been an awesome conversation. I think we really got into a good flow with this one. I can tell we're a little bit more relaxed than we have been, so yeah, it's cool to see how this is already growing, and it's only our second episode.
That's right. I am having a blast as well. And I do feel, more relaxed because, as we're doing this, I'm letting go of how I should do it more and more. And I agree, this is a great place to end our the episode, season 6, episode 4. Oh, you know what? We might need to cut that part out of the episode that I say, because we have to record our intro. So
Okay.
kick us off, Jackie, and then I will give a brief, tiny little summary or description or something after the intro, and then we'll wrap this baby up.
Wait, but should we say bye to them?
Oh,
Because
you know what? We are.
we
That's
should,
right. Right.
we should leave this in.
That's right. That's right. We'll leave this in. Thanks everybody for joining us for another epic conversation, and I'm so excited to just be on this step right now with you, Jackie. All the other steps, I'll think about them when we're on them.
Amen. We're just here seeing what's happening, and it's a blast because it is just play. When you realize you're not trying to get anywhere, you're just here on this eternal playground. And sometimes you can talk with cool people like Amanda, and it's just fun. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening, y'all. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.